Emily Roberson, and I'm a novelist, and I'm doing a series of questions I have asked myself. And so the first creative question that I have asked myself is, what does a creative person look like? So I first asked myself this question when I was a little girl. I met with a local creative writing professor. I was probably 11 or 12, and told him that I wanted to be a writer. And he said to me, "One does not want to be a writer. One is a writer." Well, 12-year-old me really did not know what to do about that, because if there was one thing that I knew, it's that I wasn't a writer, because I knew what a writer looked like, and it didn't look like me. A writer looked like Ernest Hemingway.
A quick historical note. In case you've forgotten or you didn't know, Ernest Hemingway was an American author. He wrote in the 1920s. He died sometime in the 1960s. He was a super macho guy. He married a succession of relatively wealthy women and left one for another. He wasn't the world's greatest dad. He was opposed to adjectives. I think the thing that appealed to me about him when I was a kid was that he traveled to Paris in the 1920s, and he's very famous for going to see bullfights in Spain and for living sort of a very bohemian life. Back to our story.
Or maybe a writer looked like Audrey Hepburn.
Another quick historical note. Okay, yes, here's the thing. Audrey Hepburn, not a writer, as far as I know. Certainly not known for being one. So why did I even have her in my head? I think it's because of this one movie called Funny Face, where at the beginning she plays a bookstore employee.
I hope they've got enough.
And then she travels to Paris. Again, Paris is a theme. She travels to Paris and is this total sort of beatnik hipster. And you have to see her hipster dance here. It is out of this world. And then turns into a fashion model by the end. I'm not sure what all that tells us about my aspirations. Back to our story.
And the reality is that I knew that there was absolutely no way that I was like either of those people, because I'm not a man, didn't go to Spain in the 20s, and 100% not Audrey Hepburn. So I didn't have any other images of what a writer or another creative person could look like, because I didn't really know any in my life. So here's the problem. If in my creative imagination, in order to be a creative person, you have to look like Ernest Hemingway or Audrey Hepburn, those things are just not available. And you maybe have your own creative imagination of what a creative person looks like, and it isn't you. And for a long time, I didn't understand what I was doing, but now I do. What I was doing then, and you may be doing now, is ruling myself out of creativity before it even started. Because if creative people are over there in their circle and they look like this, and I'm over here outside the circle and I look like that, I never actually have to start making anything. I never have to present it. I never have to share it. And I never have to have anybody say it's no good. Because that's the fear at the bottom for all of us who dream of making creative things. So I have a way out of this particular trap, and it comes from a book I love, Making a Literary Life by Carolyn C. And if you would like to buy this book, there's a link in the notes below to buy it, because you should. Everybody should. It's excellent. So Carolyn C. talks about this idea that the question to ask yourself isn't, what does a creative person look like way out there, and why don't I fit that? The question to ask yourself is, if I were a creative person, what would I want? What would I do? Who would I be? And so she talks about the idea that Ernest Hemingway, back to the beginning of our story, clearly imagined himself traveling the world, which he did. Another writer might imagine themselves in a fabulous trench coat. Her point is, you're not born with the trench coat. You buy the trench coat, and you buy the trench coat from the beginning. And that is how you grow into the person you're meant to be. So for me, the first step in being creative started with scarves. A scarf. For years, I told myself, oh, if only I was the kind of person who wears scarves. What did I think would happen if I wore a scarf? Would someone say, oh, can you believe Emily? She's wearing a scarf? What would someone else say? Who knows? The point is that once I started wearing scarves, I realized, no one's really paying that much attention to my scarf. And the first step of doing that, of doing something that felt a little bit scary, a little bit different, felt like the first step down the road being creative, because I think one of the most important things about being creative is showing your work to other people, sharing it with other people. I think it's part of the reason we're alive. And so, what is your thing? Do you want to wear a scarf? Perhaps a hat? So ask yourself a question. What would you do if you were a creative person? And can you start doing that thing tomorrow? So let me know in the show notes if you have any questions about the creative life. If you have any questions about my novels, there's a reference below. And I'm Emily Roberson, and I'm super excited to talk to you guys about living a creative life. All right, are we ready?
We're ready.
Okay. Is it going?
It's going.
Oh, okay.